Hey.
So I've been trying to keep up with the preseason, trying to catch a little bit of this game, a little bit of that game, and something that caught my eye was Tre Mann of the Oklahoma City Thunder recently had a pretty nice performance. He had 26 points, 8 made threes, and it just sparked some interest in me that I want to talk about real quick. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Tre Mann's game and you just don't know much about him, the main thing you have to know is that he is Mr. Space Creation in the league. I know he's only a second-year player, but I don't think there's anyone else that is able to create space like he does with his step backs, side steps, hezzies, gathers. I'll show you some clips in a second, but some of the stuff he does is just absurd. But I also just kind of wanted to talk about his role and the Thunder in general, because unfortunately the Thunder are still kind of in that Twilight Zone spot in their rebuild. They've acquired a ton of great talent. I mean, they've had Gilgeous-Alexander for a couple of years now. They added Lou Dort, Baisley, Giddey, Pokashevsky. They just drafted Chet Holmgren. And just the unfortunate thing about all of this is, obviously Chet out for the season with the foot injury. SGA is, after a very unhealthy year, is now already dealing with some injuries in camp before the season even starts, and now his start of his season's in jeopardy. And for the most part, it's just seeming like this is going to be another year where it's just the Thunder just kind of existing and playing basketball and not necessarily having a goal. So all of that stuff is not very intriguing and not very exciting, especially if you're a Thunder fan. I'm sorry, I feel bad for y'all. I'm sorry. But this will also give the opportunity to the players like Tre Mann, who still needs some more time to develop, to show us their potential, show us what they have. And ultimately, a few years down the line, I wouldn't be surprised if Tre Mann's able to carve himself out a nice, six-man role. I know the Jordan Poole comparison is a very, very popular one to make with him, and for good reason. I see why. It's probably, as far as comparisons in the NBA go, this is probably one of the better ones and ones that actually make sense. Both Mann and Poole are, guards that have come off the bench for most of their career so far. They can dazzle with some flashy moves. They like to shoot threes. They like to get to the rim. They like to play fast. So it makes sense. And while Poole is a little bit better right now, he's also a few years older. He has some more experience under his belt. And Tre Mann's no slouch. During his rookie season, he averaged around 10 points per game while getting up 4.5 threes per game at a 36% clip, which, again, is pretty good. But then you also have to keep in mind that the three-pointers he was taking were usually a more difficult diet than your average NBA player. As useful as the step-back move is for creating space out on the perimeter to be able to get your shot off, it also just makes the shot more difficult, which it might be a simple thing, but it's just true. In fact, if you dig deeper, you'll find that he shot 38.7% on catch and shoot threes when compared to pull-up threes, where he shot 34.2%. So again, Tre Mann, he's a deadly shooter. It's just, again, the fact that the degree of difficulty seems to be affecting him right now, and obviously he'll probably get better as the years go on anyway. So the three-point shooting is good. He's a sniper, all said and done. He also really seemed to find a groove as the season went on. He had a lot of his higher scoring outings later on in February and March. In fact, if you look solely from February 2nd to March 26th, you'll find that in those 24 games in that stretch, he averaged a little over 15 points, and he was hitting 2.5 threes per game at a 36% clip. Now, the main reason that Tre Mann is going to be a very useful piece for the Thunder in the future is because he'll most likely be a bench guy. He'll be playing behind Giddey and SGA, assuming that they don't make any big moves with those players. He'll also have Dort in front of him too at the guard spot. So it's likely that Tre Mann will be either the point guard or the combo two guard off the bench, and that's perfectly fine. I think that's a perfect role for him. But what that means is that he'll likely be the best scorer in some lineups, and to be the best scorer, you have to be able to create shots for yourself, and again, that is where Tre Mann reigns supreme. He's even more dangerous when the Thunder actually run sets for him, or at least just give him a screen or something to run off of, or a handoff, or again, just something to get him moving, because when you already have him in motion, and then he's able to get the defender a few steps behind, and then he hits you with the step back, it just makes it that much more deadly, that much easier for him to create that space and then get a cleaner shot off. And I already mentioned his ability to be a good catch and shoot three-point shooter, and what this will also lead to is when defenses have to close out on him because he is a good shooter, it just makes his ability to rip through and drive on these closeouts so much easier. And again, when you have guys like Josh Giddey, SGA, who are able to break down defenses initially and then kick out to Tre Mann, it's going to be a tough closeout, and it just makes it that much easier for Tre Mann to go and score the ball or create for others. And another plus for Tre Mann is that when he is attacking closeouts effectively, he's able to put a lot of pressure on the rim, which makes the game easier for the entire team. He also just has some really funky finishes that makes him difficult to block, even though he is a little bit undersized. He's got a nice layup package. He's got a pretty good variety of finishes around the rim as well. So what exactly does the next step look like for Tre Mann? Me personally, I think it'll probably look something like him just adding some more playmaking skills to his game. Again, he's likely to be the first point guard off the bench, although with Tre Mann having his scoring abilities, he could also work as a 2 guard in some lineups as well. But if he wants to be fully optimized, reach his full potential, then some playmaking chops would be nice, just because, again, when he's in those situations where he's attacking a closeout, or even if he's just trying to create a shot for himself, he's going to force the defense to shift and help and make changes, like rotations, and it's going to be at those moments where maybe he can't get his shot off, but maybe he can help someone else get their shot off, and that's just something that we haven't quite seen from Tre Mann a whole lot yet. Either way, while this year might be a little, I don't want to say disappointing, but lackluster for the Oklahoma City Thunder faithful, I think Tre Mann is going to be one of the bright spots on this roster. He played 60 games last year. He should be healthy again. He's looking good. He's looking like he's ready to take another step. At least, so far in the preseason, he's been looking really good. And again, although this is going to be a year where not a lot of stuff happens for the Oklahoma City Thunder, Tre Mann should be someone that brings joy and should want to make you watch at least every other game.